Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon. Today's top stories. A COVID-19 testing centre is due to open in Dungarvan. Further restrictions on travel and social activity are expected to be announced later this afternoon. The Education Minister has confirmed that schools will not be reopening in the short term. And in sport, Tokyo Olympics to be postponed until 2021. A third testing centre is to open in Waterford. The Waterford County Board has confirmed that Fraher Field will be used as a drive-through testing centre for COVID-19. Waterford GAA say they are happy to facilitate the HSE at this time. Yesterday, work began on a testing centre at the WIT Arena. A drive-through centre is already operating in the city. A significant new block of restrictions to tackle coronavirus will be announced by the government later. Cabinet ministers have been meeting to sign off on the new measures following advice from the National Health Emergency Team. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
The measures announced today are likely to mean the closure of any non-essential businesses that remain open. There's going to be more of a clampdown on meetings in public places like parks and beaches as well. The measures won't be the exact same as the lockdown announced in the UK last night, but will significantly restrict further movement across the country. Many who are in work today won't be in work tomorrow. Health Minister Simon Harris says they're following the best advice available.
It's very important that today is seen in the context of the massive national effort that is underway, the huge sacrifices that the Irish people are making in trying to do the right thing, in trying to keep their family, their community and their country safe. And what government wants to do with our public health doctors is support that effort. Cabinet
ministers met after the National Public Health Emergency Team gave them an update this morning. Justice Minister Charlie Flanagan says people will need to heed the new advice.
Emergency times require emergency measures. Important to remember that any measures that are introduced are for the protection of the majority of our people.
There's going to be a further update on the volume of testing in Ireland as well later. We're likely to get the full picture from the government as to how the new restrictions will work around 3 or 4 o'clock. Sean Defoe, Leinster House.
Schools won't be reopening on April 1st, according to the Minister for Education. Further restrictions aimed at slowing the spread of COVID-19 will be announced this afternoon. Minister Joe McHugh says that the main focus of his department now is having the state exams sit as normal on June 3rd. Minister McHugh says an official announcement will be made later today.
The 29th, which is next Sunday, schools are closed up the 29th. They won't be opening immediately after that, so what we will get confirmation whether it's today or tomorrow to find out what is the next date as to when the schools will be closed. That's the first thing.
A Waterford GP has appealed to people waiting for coronavirus tests to stay in isolation even if they're feeling better. Dr. Jeff Plant from the Keogh practice says he has patients waiting 6 or 7 days to be tested. He told Damien Tiernan on Daysha today that it's vital they remain in isolation.
Speaking for the people who are waiting to test, until you have a test and you've got the result that is negative and you are 2 days, at least 2 days fully symptom free, you cannot move out of isolation, okay? That's important. We're getting a lot of phone calls. Oh, I'm feeling fine now. I'm thinking I'm going to go back to whatever. No, until you have a negative test and you're 2 days free of symptoms, okay?
Pharmacists in Waterford and across the country are urging people not to panic buy should further restrictions be implemented to deal with the COVID-19 outbreak. Medicine distributor and wholesaler United Drug has had to take on more staff and other measures to deal with demand. Paul Kenny from Haven Pharmacy Kenny's in Tramore says you shouldn't stress the national supply further by buying more than you need.
There's enough medicines in the country to deal with everybody's requirements in the coming time. The only thing that will affect that is if people try and get more than 1 month's supply of their medicines at a time. You hear stories of 1 or 2 pharmacies around the country that are encouraging people to get more than 1 month. I believe that's irresponsible. It will affect the supply of medicines in the country. There are no medicine shortages in this country attributable to the virus at the moment. It's just business as usual.
Ryanair doesn't expect to operate any flights for over 2 months because of the coronavirus crisis. Europe's largest airline is grounding most of its flights from today. Stephanie Rohan reports.
In these unprecedented times, Ryanair is the latest to take unprecedented measures and has grounded most of its aircraft. It expects it to stay that way until the end of May. In a statement, Ryanair CEO Michael O'Leary says the airline's offered its aircraft to all EU governments for rescue flights for stranded passengers, the movement of vital medicines, personal protective equipment and emergency food supplies if needed. All staff will receive half their wages during this time. Aer Lingus, meanwhile, says it's still hoping to continue operating with a reduced schedule of flights. Business journalist Gavin McLaughlin says it's a tough time for the entire airline industry.
We saw a report from a respected aviation consultancy last week saying if this continues, most of the world's airlines will be bankrupt by the end of May. Now, Ryanair, I'm sure they'll be fine. They're talking about how they have $4 billion in cash to help see them through this. But it's a really, really difficult time for the airline industry now.
Michael O'Leary ends his statement on a positive note, saying although the immediate future is uncertain, the crisis will pass.
Pensioners, those in receipt of invalidity benefit and disability allowance, will receive their payment every fortnight from this week. The Department of Social Protection is introducing the measure to aid social distancing and reduce the frequency of visits to post offices. People in receipt of job seekers allowance, rent and other supplements will receive a regular payment this week and a 2-week payment from next week. Waterford Fianna Fáil TD Mary Butler hopes it will help.
And 1 week's payment has been brought forward, so when people collect their social protection payments, they'll actually receive a 2-week payment. So if people have to stock up on essentials, it might help in that respect.
A Waterford City postman is asking householders to clean and disinfect their letterbox. Social distancing measures are in place across on posts, mail and parcel sorting centres and post offices. Anthony Penny-Horan says they are taking strict steps to ensure hand hygiene, and he is asking householders to do the same.
Well, I am just going to the door and I'm knocking at the door and we're signing, we're not giving the scanners to them. We're just asking them for permission to sign it, and most people are okay about that. But I am making an appeal that would people try and clean their letterboxes every day if they could. It'd make a big help for us. Well, I'm not personally wearing gloves, I'm just using hand sanitisers the whole time. Keep my hands washed as often as I can. Each estate I go into, I put it on the hand sanitisation before I go in and then when I come out.
An Post has introduced staggered starting times for postal delivery staff, which they say will result in later mails and parcels deliveries for some customers. Anthony Penny-Horan says they are really busy with online deliveries.
Last week we were just like normal, but this week we're staggering all our shifts, so there's different people coming in at different times. So there are a lot of people at home, people are ordering online, people are stuck in to have time to be going online. So we were very busy with online anyway, but it's just you can see a bit of an increase last week, and I can notice it today as well, so it'll probably just increase further, I'd say.
Councillors in Waterford have cast their votes in the Shannon election. 2 local councillors are running. Fine Gael's John Cummins is on the Labour panel, while independent Joe Conway is on the cultural and educational panel. John Cummins says over the last 10 days, campaigning has been done over the phone and email.
We were told to stop face-to-face canvassing on Friday the 13th of March, and to be honest with you, it seems like months ago at this stage. So it certainly has been an unusual campaign in that regard. But look, we all have to play our part in ensuring that we maintain our social distance, and that's no different for Senate election candidates.
He says he feels the campaign has gone well.
Obviously, it's been a strange campaign with the changes as a result of the coronavirus. The feedback has been good. The campaign has gone well. Councillors, TDs and senators started voting last Wednesday around the country, and they'll continue to do so up to this Thursday. And the count will commence on Monday the 30th and will continue for that week. So fingers crossed for the right result. I think any additional Oireachtas member for Waterford can only be a positive thing, so I'm very hopeful that I can get over the line.
WLR Sport
with Virgin Media Waterford. Virgin Mobile on a 30-day contract. Nothing hidden.
The Tokyo Olympics will take place in 2021. Organisers of the 2020 Games, due to begin on the 24th of July, have agreed to the postponement of the event by a year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has confirmed that he has asked for the Games to be moved to next year, and the International Olympic Committee has agreed. He says a full Games will take place in Japan before the end of next year. He held talks with the head of the IOC, Thomas Bach, earlier today. Moving on to rugby, the European Professional Club Rugby Board has confirmed the semi-finals and finals of the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup have been postponed indefinitely. The final had been scheduled for the weekend of the 22nd of May in Marseille. European rugby bosses say they remain committed to completing the competitions before ending the season. Finally, to racing, there is a 7-race card behind closed doors at Clonmel this afternoon. The first is off at 2 o'clock. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media Waterford.